And I love how you brought up the sources and kind of tracking your marketing efforts. And so let's talk about that for just a minute in terms of your process for tracking the various methodologies that you're using and tools that you're trying to use, and then figuring out, okay, wait a minute, I have no idea where this client got my information, and how do we navigate that as we're growing our firms?
Well, there are some tools that you can use to track, just online tools that you can track. If you have a certain kind of phone number that's attached with your phone system, you can have a phone number that will basically, in Lawmatics, it's what I use. It will tell me, okay, they called through the website because they called this specific number, which is a little bit different than my regular number that's listed on Google. So that may be one way. You've got a specialized phone number to identify where they're coming from. Um, Google has some capability to show you, if you're doing like local service ads, uh, Google can tell you, okay, this person booked through the Google local service ad or what have you. Um, but sometimes it's just asking the client. I tell our staff to always ask the question, how did you hear about us? And they may say, oh, you just Googled you and, found you online. Or it might be that, another attorney recommended us, but they didn't mention that right off the bat. So that question is helpful. It just kind of depends on how the conversation goes and how the client is, perceiving us at the time. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to ask that question, especially on, your first impression. Um, but whenever I am, uh, a client has said, okay, we're going to do an estate plan with you. I say, okay, that's great. And I start drafting an engagement letter that I have a template for, but I have to edit it a little bit on the fly. And so there's a little bit of dead time. And during it's starting to get to be an awkward period of silence, I say, hey, how did you hear about us? I love to do that because they've already said yes to me. They're pleased with what they've heard. And so asking that question, they're ready to answer, and they're not going to be offended by that. Okay. And they say, oh, I found you on Facebook. Okay, great. In my Lawmatics program, I can just say source Facebook. And now I can tell how many people I've gotten in this month and really over the year from Facebook. And that tells me that, my efforts are paying off on that. Um, it's kind of interesting. Also, you keep track of where um, these leads are coming from, and maybe they're coming from a distant place from you. Maybe somehow you've become the guy, an hour and a half away, and these leads are coming and coming, and you know it kind of makes me think, well, should you maybe think about opening up an office in that area so that you can have more of a local presence. And so as a law firm grows, that might, be something that if you track your leads and you're kind of seeing where things are coming from, maybe it makes sense to have more of a localized presence.